think, an interesting mix in terms of how this has all worked out. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Kyrie. I'm a reporter with Fresh Take Florida. While we have you here,
What is that?
Fresh Take Florida.
Okay.
It's a news service based out of the University of Florida.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, we publish articles all across the state.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you about your plan to employ the Florida National Guard as immigration judges and kind of how that's going.
So I think most people know when you're talking about interior enforcement of immigration, and we see it, there's just a lot of bureaucracy that gets attached to that and it's federal when the administration wants to do that. So, and we have a good example, like in Florida, I put boats out to help the Coast Guard when Biden was president because these boats were coming into Florida. And if you stop the boat on the sea, they go right back to Haiti or wherever. There's no process. If they get to shore, then all of a sudden there's this like big process. Biden would send them around to different parts. So there's that process that's involved. And so if you have somebody that's here illegally, even people that have a final order of removal, there's still a process involved. So how do you do that? So we made the suggestion to the president when he came down in the summer. We have judge advocates in our National Guard. They can be trained as immigration judges, and they can help process this along. And so that had to go through a lot of bureaucratic back and forth with the Department of Justice and some other things. But I think they now have a pathway where you can do that. And so we would be willing to provide. Now, I also know that there was some in DOJ that just wanted them to be drawn from purely civilian rather than the uniformed services. But whatever, we want to be supportive and we want to be able to help it. And the thing is it's like, look, if you have a right to be here, then you have a right to be here, right? I mean, like, but if you don't, are we going to do like an O.J. Simpson trial just to somebody who's here illegally? I mean, like, we got to have a way to make these determinations quickly and then have the law be enforced very swiftly as a result of that. Incidentally, you know, because I've been around the block enough to know anything we do, as soon as I roll out of bed in the morning, someone sues us on something. Like, you know, Ray's talking about all this stuff, right? And there's certain courts that if we're in front of, we know we're going to lose no matter what, right? It doesn't matter. But then we know we'll win on appeal most likely because we actually, when we look to do stuff, you know, we're not just flying off the seat of their pants. We actually think through how do you make it stick, and all. We understand there's a give and take on some of this stuff. And so that typically happens. We could lose in district court, win on appeal. That sometimes at the state level, it goes all the way to the Florida Supreme Court. I think our record there is very strong overall. Very strong on the 11th Circuit, too. So on the Alligator Alcatraz, they sued, and we had a judge. We knew we were going to lose. And the judge said that the state couldn't do that, even though it's a state airport. You know, the feds aren't involved in running it. They just come take them and then send them back to their home country. That you needed to do an environmental impact statement because, you know, it's basically a federal function. That's not what the law says. So we went to the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit not only said, no, we're not going to let that district judge's ruling take effect. We're actually going to take the case away from her until we finish this appeal. So that appeal will take longer, but they made the extraordinary step of removing the case from her in the interim because they knew what was going on. It wasn't about what the law was. It was about doing whatever they can to throw sand in the gears. So we won that. Remember, the media was giddy when she issued that ruling. And I said, it's operational. It's going to continue to be operational. And that's exactly what happened. And so we're now doing that. We just had DHS come to Tallahassee on Friday, bringing tens of millions of dollars in reimbursement. Remember, I said our operations to assist the Trump administration are going to be reimbursed by them. They're telling us that. I believe it. And so you're already seeing those reimbursements happening. So sometimes I'll hear, oh, well, you have Highway Patrol or this. How much money is that costing? Well, the reality is whatever we're doing, we're getting reimbursed for. So the net cost to the Florida taxpayer won't be anything. But what is the cost to Floridians by allowing illegal immigration to continue? There's costs on the state, on the communities. Health care, medical, hospitals, education, law enforcement, all that stuff. They don't talk about those costs. They just assume anything you're doing to alleviate those costs, they count that cost. They don't like to count the others. So I think on all these, we understand how the game's played. We understand that there's favorable forums that they go to. But at the end of the day, we've been remarkably successful in getting things right-sized on appeal. And on this one, I think we're totally good. So on the judge advocates, we're there. We got people that want to be helpful. It's not just up to us, though. It's really a federal. They train. They do a lot of different things to kind of get people up to speed on that. But what I think a lot of people don't know, immigration, quote, judges they're not Article III judges. They're executive branch employees. So they are employed by, it used to be the Justice Department. I think it probably still is, but when DHS shifted, INS went in there. So maybe it's technically DHS, but it's one of the civilian agencies, and they're lawyers that are trained in immigration law. So you don't have to have been appointed to a federal court to adjudicate this stuff, and thank God you don't have to do that. Imagine the backlog if we had to go into federal judges. So these are executive branch employees. They serve this function. This process has been in place. I think some of it's screwy. I mean, just think about it. How does it make sense that you can have a president from 2021 to January of 2025 open the border, let people in, 10 million people, whatever, fly them all around the country? Then you have the next president that said, the American public doesn't like that. I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to fix it. And that president comes in, and to fix it, it's like you got to go through every lawsuit every single day. And so it's a one-way ratchet. They can let in, and then they want to make it so that it's hard to repatriate. And if that happens, then you can have that border be secure, which they've done a good job of doing, but it's just going to continue to be an issue. So I think it's important that the laws are enforced. And I can tell you in Florida, I mean, they'll do these, like Grady Judd, the sheriff in Polk County, great guy. He does these big busts of these child predators, and like a third of them are illegal aliens. It's like, why would we want that to be happening, in our communities? And so there's a lot of issues here, but we've been leading on it, and we want to make sure that the state upholds the rule of law and is safe for everybody.
Timeline of when these judge advocates would be trained. I understand from kind of like documents it says 6 weeks. Have they already?
So yeah, so basically, the initial training was not very quick. Let's just put it that way. And our position was like, listen, we got to get going. So they have streamlined the training. I don't know exactly how long, whether that number's right, but I do know it's weeks and not months. And people are going to have an opportunity to go through the pipeline and get smart on this stuff, and then go from there. Yes, sir.